Well, the national lockdown has made the lack of food security among poorer communities worse. There is now a greater need than ever before to help vulnerable people survive the COVID-19 lockdown. Now, the SA Food Sovereignty campaign says it is time to build the kind of food system that we want to see in the future. And the campaign has organized a webinar on the 30th of April to explore different options. But to impact this further, let's talk to Vishwas Sattar, who joins us right now, to, of course, talk about this. Thank you so much, Vishwas, for your time. We'll get into the webinar, which is planned for the 30th of April in just a moment. But talking about the severity of the situation as far as food insecurity is concerned in the country, what are the realities telling us?
Well, again, magnitude, very important. And we got a sense that the president was beginning to grasp that we're talking about anywhere between 20 and 30 million people that are food stressed across the country. And again, we've been reiterating this point. The food challenge, the hunger challenge is not new in South Africa. We've seen explosions given the crisis. We've seen looting of trucks in Eloff Street, downtown Johannesburg. There's also been communities on the march. And again, we've got to characterize these things appropriately. These are hunger flashpoints. These are hunger riots, if you like. We've got to get the discourse right, because this is not just criminality. These are people really on the brink of starvation. So the situation on the ground is desperate. Level 5 restrictions locked down our food commons in South Africa. Now, this is a very important issue to unpack. So if you look at informal trading in South Africa, it employs more people than are employed in our supermarkets, so about 3 million people. In terms of value to our economy, it produces anywhere between 250 and over 300 billion in value. The other point to make about this is that about 70% of poor households in South Africa actually source their food from informal traders. And this is very, very important, because the informal traders provide much cheaper food than our supermarkets, etc. What we are actually observing right now is major price creep in many, many supermarkets around essentials and so on. But anyway, the informal economy, if you like, is a big part of our food commons and our food economy, and it was shut down. The other part of this is about 180,000 small-scale farmers that actually are sources of food supply in our country. So normally when we talk about our food system, we talk about 33,000 agro-industrial farming operations. We talk about 4,000 within that supply our food mainly to about four big supermarket chains. But actually these 180,000 small-scale farmers are very important. Alongside them are micro-scale farmers, under 2 hectares, small community gardeners. There is a ecology of, if you like, food hotspots across the country, township communities and so on. Now, that was locked down, which has fed into the crisis.
Now, we talk about, people's dignity here as well, which has been severely compromised by this food insecurity. Just shortly before we had a conversation, my colleague Slindelo Masekane was in a community in Tshwane where we witnessed, people running to get food parcels. Just yesterday, ENC's Manqoba Mchunu was also in a separate community where one of the community members said, Vishwas, that they had to go to, where there's dirt and where there's filth to dig up some fruits and vegetables and food there just to survive and to feed their families. So when we talk about your campaign organizing, this webinar to talk about different options which, the country, or rather the government can consider to address issues of food security, what exactly is on the agenda?
So as I've been saying, we have a food commons in South Africa which the government doesn't appreciate in its strategic response to this pandemic. It hasn't appreciated even before. And this food commons is very, very critical to the everyday lives of people. So if you look at level 5 restrictions, as I said, it locked it down and basically channeled us all to shop at supermarkets, which is where most people don't shop. Level 4 has opened up some space, but there's a lot of ambiguity, a lot of uncertainty around what constitutes agriculture and services. Now, we want to bring into view and into the conversation that if you look at, say, rural Limpopo, there are networks of communities that are engaged in a different kind of farming, agroecological farming, that reproduces and sustains those communities. In Mitchell's Plain, for example, a very exciting practice there coming out of a school teacher. Her name is Magda, and she's been able to proliferate food gardens across Mitchell's Plain, using schools as a hub to do this. In the context of Wits University and an urban space, we've been running what you call a food commons training program, working with inner city dwellers, encouraging pavement gardens, backyard gardens, community gardens, etc. So I think that's at the hub of what we're trying to do.
All right, we'll have to leave it right there. Thank you so much, Vishwas Satka, for joining us right here on ENCN.